Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when we're part of a team.
Hello and welcome to the very first episode / test run of Popcorn and Prosecco, a show during which you can watch three film-obsessed ladies discuss the best and the worst the movie industry has to offer. I'm Perri Nemiroff, and here are my two co-hosts, Kristy, Puchko, and Angie Han. How are you two doing today?
I'm great. Bright and early.
Doing good over here. Representing Queens.
No way, Manhattan.
Brooklyn.
So now that you know where we're all from, let's kick things off with a discussion about the Frozen sing-along. Kristy, do you want to take it from here?
Yeah, so all three of us were really big fans of Frozen, and it's just kind of beautiful animation and all that. And then they announced they were going to do a sing-along, and immediately the three of us were like, well, we're doing that. That's happening. And we went last Friday, and we picked a very late screening because we kind of wanted to avoid, like, children. Well, I wanted to avoid children. I'll say it, whatever. Anyway, and it was actually really lovely. We got there, and ultimately about 30 people came out. There were about 6 kids, and the rest were adults, and, like, some on dates, some came in groups. We snuck in some wine because that is how we roll, and it was actually really lovely. Seeing the movie again was fantastic, but actually being able to sing with the whole theater, I felt kind of made me appreciate all these little moments in the movie on a deeper level.
Well, I don't sing, but it made me feel it on a deeper level hearing all of you sing.
That's true, Angie.
I tapped my foot, I swear.
Yeah, Angie and I definitely sang our hearts out. I actually sang until I have a little bit of a cold, as you can tell, but I actually sang until I could not physically sing anymore. That was actually wonderful. I lost my voice on Let It Go, and I regret nothing.
I didn't quite go that far, but it was a really fun communal experience because, you know, a lot of times you go to the movie theater and it's just you're sitting in a dark room with a bunch of strangers that you don't know or aren't going to talk to and are never going to see again. But, you know, there's like this, but when you're actually singing, it feels like you're hanging out with like all your friends, even though you don't know those people. It was really lovely.
It's pretty incredible when you think about how recently that movie first came out. Because, like, this whole thing could have been like, yeah, that's nothing. But this whole thing could have been like, thinking of a good analogy. Like, if you throw a birthday party and it's like the coolest thing ever and then no one shows up and you're just like, aw. Like, that's what this could have been. This could have been like a half-empty theater of people who didn't really participate. But that theater was, I want to say, like, half full by the end. And everyone in there but me, everyone was just, like, singing on the top of their lungs. And they knew the words. And they knew, like, little dialogue parts within the songs. And just certain parts that weren't even technically part of the song, too, which was really nice.
I thought I was a big fan until I heard, like, the group of guys behind us, like, belting their hearts out and, like, knowing all of the spoken dialogue.
And like, they even had, like, there was, like, attitude in the way they were singing. It wasn't just the words. There was, like, a lot of emotion. Like,
well, they were legit. Like, they were
amazing.
Probably from, like, Tisch or some sort of performing school.
I thought that they were probably like Broadway actors because it was like 10:45 and I wonder if they were like, oh well, the show's over, so now we're gonna go over and sing Frozen. Like, they were really good. Like, I feel like we were really lucky that we saw it in Times Square in New York because it was like we got really amazingly talented people singing in our theater. I am not a talented singer. I just had a lot of energy, but like the people behind us were beautiful singers.
But it is worth noting that there were kids in there. Like, who takes a kid to see a 10:45 screening of Frozen?
As I've said, I went to see Prometheus on a Sunday afternoon, and someone brought an infant. Nothing surprises me anymore when it comes to New Yorkers bringing their kids to movies.
That's a good point. And you know what my favorite part was, though, was when the theater guy, I don't know, like a manager or whatever he was, came. What song was that during?
I made a note in my GIF review on Cinema Blend. I think it was actually, it might have been Let It Go? I forget, but yeah, he came in.
That was obviously the favorite in the crowd.
Yeah,
everyone went nuts for that.
By far the most fun to sing.
Yeah, it was that, and Would You Like to Build a Snowman? People really love to sing, too. That was actually funny, because when the little Anna says, do you want to build a snowman? She's not even starting the song yet. She just says that. Someone in the crowd was so excited that they just screamed yes. And it was just like, I was like, oh, we're in. This is happening. Like, but yeah, the guy came into the theater to do that flashlight. I don't know what they do.
Dude,
Like,
how annoying is that, actually? Because, like,
Yeah.
I always see it coming when they, like, sneak down the aisle like you're not going to see them, and they shine the flashlight on the piece of paper.
Yeah.
I feel like it's, like, some sort of check where you got to, like, sign off or something.
Yeah. But he came in to do that, and then he stuck around through the song, and then he told us we did a good job. Like,
Thanks, guy.
yeah, and it was funny because he was like, he seemed kind of a tougher guy. Like, I'm not gonna attempt the accent, but he had like a you know, like, I don't know.
Nice,
You look
nice
like you're
face, I
about
get it
to
now.
have to-
It was that.
So wait, there was Frozen, you Let It Go, You Want to Build a Snowman, and then were there
Love
any
is an
others?
Open Door.
Oh, people like that one.
Yeah, that was fun.
It got off to a slow start because the first song is the one about like the men singing about ice, and that's
Frozen.
like not like a yeah. And I was like, I wasn't sure at first because not everyone seemed into that one because it's not one of the more popular ones. But then by the time we got to Do You Want to Build a Snowman? Yes.
Yeah,
Everybody-
like
Oh, and
everybody
then-
was on board.
And For the First Time in Forever is another super popular one.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was true. I didn't think of that one. The only one that people didn't really seem into was the troll thing. But I don't think
Never.
anyone's really that into the troll part of this movie. They're
No.
trolls,
No.
right? That's what they call
They
them.
are
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fine. I just that song bugs me because I feel like the movie has such a great message about like discovering who you are and like the importance of self and of family, and there's all these things going on, and like a distrust of first love and all that, which is or first love at first sight. But then that song is just playing on all these old tropes that like so much of the rest of the movie is doing away with. And it's just like I hate the phrase fixer upper. Like I like the idea of saying like people are complicated and you love someone not despite of their faults but because of them you love them completely and whatever, but the movie was like implied, like that section of the movie implies like, oh yeah, well, you know, people are kind of screwed up but maybe they'll be less screwed up. I don't know.
It's really weird because that song like kind of contradicts itself because it's all about like you know
Yeah.
how you can fix someone by loving them or something, and then there's this like interlude where one of the female trolls is singing about like, oh, you know, but you can't really change people, and it was like, then what was all this about? What are we talking about here? What are we doing here? Plus, it comes at a point in the movie where you're like, you know, you're just coming off like a big action scene, something terrible has happened, you're on your way to solve it, and then like everything just grinds to a halt so that we can watch these trolls who are not really characters that we care about at all
Yeah.
deliver this contradictory message that makes no sense. And it's like, you know, it's kind of cute and out of context, like it's kind of fun, but it fits in such a weird part of the movie, and I think it's the last actual song in the movie.
It is.
Which is
Like,
another
there's-
weird thing.
They were
I was trying to
like,
figure out what came after it, and I was thinking there was nothing else.
Yeah.
No.
It was interesting. I've covered this a lot on Cinema Blend. A lot of fans have written their own songs for what should have come next. And it's actually really beautiful. It gets into spoiler territory, so I don't want to get super into it. But there's a scene between the sisters that in the movie is a silent moment or a spoken moment. And it's really fantastic. Fans have written their own lyrics reprising Do You Want to Build a Snowman? And it's Elsa saying she does. And it's actually really lovely because someone animated it themselves. Well, they put the song that they recorded over like stills from the movie, and it's really fantastic. And I actually like was kind of hoping someone would just sing that just on their own. But,
Maybe we should put a link to that in the comments section of this piece.
Yeah, we could do that.
The other thing is that it seems like such a waste to have Jonathan Groff in that movie and have him sing one song with himself that lasts like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It's not like a major complaint, but it is kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
You
got
would
these great
think if
Broadway
they
stars.
picked him, yeah. Like, wouldn't
Yeah.
that have been the whole point of picking him, actually?
I'm guessing that they probably had bigger plans in mind for him when they cast him, and that it just kind of didn't work out. Because yeah, you're right. If that's all they wanted him for, they didn't have to cast a Broadway star.
Well, this movie went through, like, a crazy amount of development before it actually got made, right? Like, I mean, like, years and years and years.
Yeah, it was like off and on and off and on, and like the story changed drastically. Like it's based on the Snow Queen, in which I guess the counterpart to Elsa is the villain. But then I read somewhere that they decided to do away with making her a villain, and I guess the song "Let It Go" had to do with some of it, where they were like, oh, this is actually a much more interesting story if you just let the character have like her own arc and like be have her own journey instead
That's
of
the
just being a
smartest
generic
move
bad
they
guy.
could have made, is like not making her one of your quintessential Disney villains and turning her into like, I don't even want to call her an anti-hero, but someone that you could love and understand her mistakes.
Yeah.
And she's just not your typical Disney character, and that's not your typical like main Disney relationship either, which is why.
No. Like,
this
how
movie
often do you
resonates.
see sisters getting along in Disney movies? Like, Little Mermaid, she had sisters, but they didn't give a shit.
No.
They're like, whatever, Ariel, there are 13 of us, we have no time for you. And, like, they sing that song, and then we never see them again.
I really hope that Disney does more stuff like this in the future, or really like any movie. I mean, I know musicals are kind of rare, and that this is something that is unique to musicals, but anytime there's a good one, I'd love to do something like this again.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually people in comments on the GIF review were saying, like, are more places gonna do sing-along movies? And like, it's such a rare thing. Like, I've seen them do it for like Sound of Music at revival screenings, but yeah, it was really wonderful. I think it's unique to Frozen because Frozen's only been out 2 months and already people have this level of love for it.
They had like the Grease one, and they do like the Rocky Horror stuff.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Typically, you need years.
Yeah, this is in a different league, though. This is really weird that you could put something out like this 10 weeks after it hits theaters, and people are responding like this.
Yeah.
All right, so we're moving on now to topic 2. Angie, you want to take it from here?
Yes, so I need everyone to take a deep breath and look somber because this is really sad. So as I'm sure everyone has already heard, Philip Seymour Hoffman passed away over the weekend, and he was, one of my favorite actors, if not my one favorite actor. He was in my favorite movie of all time, Synecdoche, New York, so, it was really sad. And I just wanted to go around and maybe talk about our favorite roles from him or, what we thought about his career. I don't want to start. Do you want to start?
I'll start. So he's fantastic in so many things. And as you guys know, I go to trivia on Tuesday nights, which is movie trivia, blah, blah, blah. And they had a guest round that was they had a round that was all just clips from his movies. And it was really easy because everybody knows those movies, but that wasn't the point. The point was just to kind of have that moment. And it was actually really nice to be in a room full of people who love movies and who got to just experience him in these moments. And it was really funny. It was like a scene from him from Moneyball just being like silently frustrated, and the scene from Punch Drunk Love where he's just like, shut up, just shut, And it's like, he's such a big presence that I feel like everybody online really responded when the news came out, but I feel like we're not even there yet. I feel like he's such a big presence, there's going to be this big abyss in the coming years, because thankfully we've still got 2 movies with him coming out because of the Mockingjay movies for Hunger Games. But I think my favorite performance of his is actually in a movie he directed called Jack Goes Boating, and it's a much quieter role than he typically played. It's not bombastic, and he's playing this guy who feels so like scared to express himself, and he meets this woman, and like it was just such a simple but really beautiful movie that like I remember seeing it and wishing like all movies could be like that. And like it's been ages since I've seen it, so I'm actually gonna have to go find it again and watch it again.
I'm going with Twister. I mean, that was kind of like one of the first movies where I actually registered who he was and why I thought he was so special. That was one of those movies that I grew up watching kind of over and over and over again. And, I mean, in all honesty, his character was always one of my favorites. And I'm like, you are just a really cool dude. And from that point on is kind of when I grew to love movies on a different level, and I always took him with me after that. So I'm going with that one, but I'm also going to throw in Rock the Boat. No, it was changed. Rock the Boat, which now is Pirate Radio. Because that was the first time that I ever got to meet him face to face, and it was one of my first junkets ever while working in this business, and I was so freaking nervous, and it was just a round table, but I sat down, and I'm just like staring at this guy like he's the most amazing thing ever, because, yeah, I mean, he really is, but so that experience was pretty special. But like also because I tend to cover a lot of wide film adaptations, so in the past year, I guess at this point, he's probably cast like a year ago, I constantly write about him. That character is a huge part of where the Hunger Games series is heading, and I am like, I'm deeply sad that he's gone, and I'm kind of, I mean, this almost sounds a little selfish, but I'm kind of deeply sad that he's not going to film that last scene. It's like, he made this great character, and that role is so important to the movie, and I'm so excited about it, and now, like, no, not that last little bit. It's just so sad. It's so unfortunate that, like, things like this have to happen. It feels so unnecessary.
Yeah.
I know. It feels almost weird to me to feel like, I almost feel like, oh, why am I sad? It's a person that I've never met, that there's a good chance I would have never met him, even if there's no chance we would have ever been friends. And, meanwhile, he has lots of actual family friends that are in deep mourning. But, it's like someone that, like one of my, like, right around when I really started getting into movies, my first favorite movie as, like, kind of an adult was Almost Famous, and he has a really key role in that. So, like Perri, he's just an actor that has stayed with me through, like, my entire evolution as, like, someone who loves movies. And as I mentioned early on, Synecdoche, New York is, my all-time favorite movie, and he's in it. And I think that, one of the things that made him really special was that he never really tried to make his characters likable at all. He would never sugarcoat it, but he would play them with such humanity that you couldn't help but kind of sympathize and kind of see what they were coming from. And it always just felt so warm and vibrant. And yeah, I mean, like everyone else, I'm just, I know a lot of people have been like, oh, now it's so sad that we're not going to see what he would have done in like 10 or 20 or 30 years. But I guess we should just be grateful for everything that he's done already. Mm-hmm. I mean, and as Kristy pointed out, we do have a few more movies coming out. There's the two Mockingjay movies. He was in Most Wanted Man, and I think there was one other film from, like, Sundance. I think there's one other, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there was one that played in Sundance this year, right? I think there were two. Most Wanted Man was one of them, and something else that I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. I think you're right, though, Angie, about the idea that he came about at a time where a lot of us who are blogging now were, like, kind of coming into our own and understanding, like, what the artistry of movies were. So, like, he kept surfacing, and it was just like, I do think that's it. I think it's like he was always there. You're watching Boogie Nights, and he's there. You're watching Almost Famous, and he's there. He became such a presence in these incredible movies that, like, he became a part of us and became a part of our identity as film lovers. So I think that's why, even though, I mean, like, neither of, like, two of the three of us had never had a chance to meet him, but, like, you feel that loss. It's weird because, like, when you think about it that way, it's so true. Like, how can you not feel it? Because he was in the public eye all the time, and he's part of, like, our coming of age process in a way, too. But, how do we react to it when he's got real family and friends who are directly mourning him, and then there's us who kind of are just obsessed with his work and really admire him for that. I can't pretend that I'm not going to be one of those people that's like, I totally understand how they're feeling. Because, no, I don't. I'm sad that we lost a great talent and someone who seemed to be a really mesmerizing force and a very creative person. But, yeah, we can't compare to his family. I mean, they have my condolences. That's about all I can say there. Yeah, I think we're agreed with you there. Absolutely. And now in the worst transition ever, but to end this show on a positive note, we are going to talk about the happiest movie ever, the Lego Movie. So the three of us all saw this last night, and I know I fell in love with it. I'm not going to speak for you two yet, but just to give you a sense of what it's about, it is like the truest adaptation of a toy you could possibly imagine. It focuses on a character named Emmett, who is just your basic construction worker, nothing special about him, until he happens to come across this thing called the Special, and then all the master builders find him, and they think that he is... Oh, no, he is called Special. I don't remember what the piece that he finds is called. The piece of resistance. The piece of resistance. Which is so cute. Which attaches to the Craggle. I remember that. Yeah. So Emmett finds the piece of resistance, and that designates him as the Special. And then the master builders get all excited because they think he's the Special, and they think he's going to take down Lord Business, who is trying to end the world with this weapon called the Craggle. I'm obsessed with this movie, and I was obsessed with Legos as a kid.
And this movie has so much nostalgia, it was almost overwhelming. Just hearing all the clicking noises, seeing these familiar pieces that I used to obsess over as a kid, and seeing it all, like, come to life again. This movie almost feels like it was shot as though, like, a child was manipulating the Legos and making it come to life, but the hands weren't there.
Yeah.
So you could relate in a way that you can't really relate to any movie, actually, but this. That really made it a standout now that I express it.
I think that they did such a good job of, like, capturing, like, you know, because when you're a kid and you build, like, your little, like, Lego houses and you're playing with your little minifigs, this is exactly what it looks like in your mind's eye, where, like, you know, in real life, you see two hands, like, going like this, but when you're a kid, this is, like, what you're picturing in your head, and they did just such a good job of, like, capturing, you know, not only, like, what you would think that would look like, but, like, just like, the feeling of it and, like, the... You know, there's like this sense in the movie of like, oh my God, anything can happen, and that's. I feel like I got more of that sense in this movie than I do in most movies. It was really bold for an original for a movie that is essentially a 2-hour toy commercial sponsored by a major studio.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I was really surprised by how imaginative and playful it is, because I mean, the concept of all these creatures, like the master builders, like the terminology of that in the trailers threw me, but it's basically just minifigs who can build, and they would create these things out of just pieces, and it was really inspiring and fun, and it made you want to go home, and like we all talked about it afterwards, we wanted to go home and pull out Legos. It was just, there was such a sense of life. And
Did you guys see what I built last night?
No. I saw you post.
This is the benefit of recording on video, is you could see my little Lego creations. We got these in the goodie bag after the screening last night.
I built them too.
Obviously, that was the first thing I did when I got home.
Me too.
I did not. I can actually, let me reach and find mine so people can see what they look like before they're built, because I'm lazy.
I do see your Lego poster in the background there.
I see that too.
That's the activity book. But this is what Perri and Angie had before. I looked at this and went, there's no way I can build those things, and I set it aside because I'm lazy. But now I'll have to figure that out. That'll be my mission.
I came home and I had like all this work I was supposed to do, and before I did anything else, I like dumped them out, and I was like, I have to build this.
Yeah, I had the same issue. If I were in this movie, I would be like Emmett and like just top notch at following the instructions, like master builder stuff where they have to come up with things through like imagination and creativity. Like I was not that kind of kid.
But that's one of the things that I think is interesting about the movie is like you think it's just going to be about like, you know, oh, this is Emmett and he's a hero, and then it turns out he's like the master builder of all, and he's special and blah blah blah. But to the end, this is a movie that really is, you know, about like how what's special about you is just who you are, and you know, it doesn't turn out that, like, I think I was talking about this with you guys a little bit last night, but it doesn't turn out that, like, oh, once he discovers he's a special, he discovers he's, like, the greatest wizard in all of Hogwarts or anything like that. Like, he is still him, and, you know, it becomes more and more apparent that what makes him special is just that he is who he is. Which I think is a really inspiring message for kids especially, but even as an adult, like, you know, I feel like kids are always told, like, oh, you're special, but you don't really believe it. And, or at least maybe I'm just speaking from personal experience. I don't know.
Actually, maybe we'll do a spoiler section in a couple minutes, because I think the ending is worth talking about. But are there any, like, details or characters you guys really dug? Because I have a list a mile long. What a perfect voice casting for that role.
Yeah, Will Arnett's amazing as his Lego Batman.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Talk about Batman.
Okay, I love Lego Batman. Will Arnett is perfect casting, and I just love their take on Batman. Especially, I mean, I know this isn't, like, in the same universe as Christopher Nolan or Man of Steel or whatever, but especially, like, coming off of those, like, really serious, like, superhero movies, like, I love that this is a movie that kind of just gets what is ridiculous about Batman. And I say that as someone who likes the character, but it's still just, like the fact, like, it just, like, how much of an asshole he was and stuff was just hilarious to me.
For me, it was Good Cop, Bad Cop, played by Liam Neeson, which you see in the trailers, I feel like this isn't spoiling, is that he's this very tough Liam Neeson bad cop, and then his head spins around, and he's got, like, a smiley face, and then he's Liam Neeson good cop, and he has, like, Liam Neeson voice, but, like, as if he's talking to a puppy, and I love that. I thought that was really funny and really inventive, and I asked on Twitter today, I want the internet's the almighty internets, I want them to make a Taken trailer with his good cop voice because I'm obsessed with his good cop voice.
I would listen to him say anything in that voice.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping Key and Peele will do a Lego movie, other ballet guys who are all about Liam Neeson's. I want to see them freak out about the Lego movie.
I want Taken 3 to just be Liam Neeson doing good cop.
Or just, like, feature his Lego form, and that's it.
That would be great.
Just be, like, his Lego character running around.
I think this was the playful side that I thought we would see, and like we were talking last night about Battleship and how Battleship is like, forget the book, or like forget that game, we're just gonna do our own thing, and like Lego went totally the other direction, and they were like, we're really gonna dig in and think about what do people like about playing with Legos and make that the focal point of the movie, and like that shouldn't have worked. That's I like playing with Legos is like inherently uncinematic, and yet they made it something so fun to watch. And there's so much going on in this movie, and it's so fast paced.
The level of detail is kind of extraordinary.
Yeah,
I mean, just like the way the pieces all come together. Like if you watch that Master Builder stuff that happens in like 0.5 seconds, they don't just like gloss over. You see every single piece connecting, and like some of my favorite parts were when you saw those like obscure pieces come out, and they're like, oh, like the thing with like X amount of teeth. I remember that one. I remember the part where I had to tie the string around. So like I know what you're talking about. But just to touch on my favorite character, I really liked Morgan Freeman, and I like how I'm not going to spoil this, but I like how he ends up, because that used to be one of my favorite figures. But I'm actually going to go with Unikitty, because, like, what is that? What is she? And, like, she is just such an outrageous character that behaves in, like, these really bizarre ways, but I am oddly fascinated by it, and I think it's adorable.
I just want to say, like, we were saying how surprising it is that this is such a good toy movie, but, like, these are also the same guys that turned what sounded like a horrible idea, a 21 Jump Street comedic cinematic reboot, and made it into, like, one of the best comedies of the year. And, like, before that, they did Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, which it was just like, oh, okay, good. Someone decided to turn a 30-page picture book into a fucking feature. And then that was great, too. So I don't know. These people seem to be just, like, know exactly how to turn something that seems like a terrible idea into a great idea. I don't know how they do it, but I love it.
Attention to the details. Like, that was the best part about this movie. That's kind of why I love Cloudy also. It's because, like, they didn't miss anything. They really sat down. They're like, why do people love this stuff? How do we, like, do it justice? And that's what they did. They didn't just, like, take a title or take a product and whip together a movie to make some. Like, that's because that is what Battleship did. They're like, oh, yes. Battleship the game, Battleship the name, let's just throw battleships and alien. Like, let's
throw aliens in it, because that's what people love about the game. Wait, what? Like, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know how you make a good movie out of a plaything, but the Lego movie figured it out. And I mean, as people that grew up in the 80s, like, I watched a lot of garbage movies because they were selling me toys. I watched the Garbage Pail Kids movie. Yeah, that happened. The Care Bears movies, those are crap movies. Like, you go back now and it's like they are just made to make children be like, I want to hold the thing in this movie. And like, this is really inspiring, and it totally sells the toys. Like we were saying last night, we're shocked they didn't have a kiosk. I was like, now buy the, like, they should have, because they would have cleaned up. But instead they gave us free toys, which was cool.
Yeah, seriously, parents, like, we are warning you. If you take your kids to see this, you better spend a lot of money after, because they are going to want.
No, let's be real. Adults, if you're seeing this, you are going to want to buy yourself a shit ton of Legos after watching this.
All right, before we wrap up the Lego discussion, spoiler time. So you are being warned right now. We are about to talk about spoilers for the Lego movie. If you do not want to hear it, turn off this podcast now. Scroll down to the end, whatever you want. Spoiler alert. It is happening now. Okay, so the ending. I know we all have thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting, because in the end, you find out that they allude to the person playing with the toys, and then in the end we finally get to meet these people. And I like that. I like the inventiveness of that. I like the idea of taking it out of the world we had established. But I feel like they went a little heavy-handed. I feel like where the rest of the movie's really light and bubbly, that gets a little like, no, but seriously, let's get real.
Yes.
And
It
with
gets
that
a
face.
little it gets like very like it like slows down and gets very serious and becomes like a dramatic tale of a father and a son, and like you're just and like first of all I think it's really inventive that they just kind of throw that in there because I did not see that coming at all, so I love that. And I kind of like the idea, but then they like are like, oh, like they first of all they get really obvious with it. They're like, this character basically represents you, and like they get very very heavy handed with it, so I didn't love that.
I'm actually all for it for that reason, though. Like,
I just didn't love how heavy-handed it was. I liked what they did. I just wish that they, had a slightly lighter touch with it.
Dare I say, I think they should have been heavy-handed, though, because, like, they had such a light touch in terms of story and character development and all that throughout the entire movie that in order for it to resonate that much, I kind of needed to be, like, smacked in the face with reality, even if it's a melodramatic reality in the end. It's like that kind of filled the void of the only thing that was missing from the film beforehand. So it kind of felt natural, like it ended up pulling everything together.
One thing I do like is that in that sequence we realized just like how much of like the kid who's playing with the Legos. So this is basically, he's God basically. You realize how much of it is just like stuff that he's heard around like his own house. Like they like allude to like a kitty poster and then you see it and then like his like mom is talking about Taco Tuesday and you're just like, oh.
I'd love to rewatch this for that reason. Like if you went back now at knowing how it ended and looking for all those little clues.
Yeah. It was really sweet, and like again, I think the only reason I didn't like it was I kind of preferred not knowing who was playing the Legos. I think it left it a little more to my imagination, so that was a bit of a bummer on my end. But it was actually really inventive and really nicely done. I just think it changes gears in a really weird way for me, so I'm not 100% on the ending, but I think the whole movie as a whole is really fantastic and fun, and I think kids will watch it again and again. I think adults will watch it again and again. And I also like there's allusions for adults that don't feel really obvious and don't slow down the plot. Like there's a 2001 Space Odyssey reference. There's a really blatant Star Wars reference that, whatever. There's Terminator references. There's more, I know. I started scribbling them down, but like they're subtle. It's just kind of like a fun and then we're going to keep moving. It's not like the Shrek movie started going more and more into that where they were just calling out things and, be like, oh, also Gundam style or whatever. Like, this felt really fluid, and it felt like the way kids play and the way people talk where they, like, reference stuff without being like, get what I'm doing? Huh?
Yeah.
It's loaded with one-liners, too. Again, I started to write some of those down, but like I kind of want to watch it again so I can start repeating some of the lines. I think one of my favorites that I remember off the top of my head was in the beginning when Morgan Freeman's character goes, "You must believe this because it rhymes," or something like that.
All prophecies are said in rhyme. Yeah, that's science.
Just props to the directors for making a Lego movie that is actually about Legos.
Yeah.
Which sounds like it should be simple, but isn't, because as you pointed out, Battleship isn't really about the game Battleship.
And taking on a really huge animation challenge.
Oh, God, it was gorgeous.
Those pieces are as close to real as they come. This movie is mesmerizing.
Well, also the fact that, like, they kept to the reality of Lego pieces, so, like, we never, like, the characters move like this because that's how minifigs would move, and, like, I like that. There's no, it's like Wreck-It Ralph, or what was the other one I was thinking of last night? Oh, or like Toy Story, where they establish the reality of how these characters move, and then within the movie, they stick to that. And, like, it gives it its own sense of reality, and it's really lovely.
Toy Story is actually a pretty good comparison in terms of them taking, like, a toy and then connecting it to the real world and, emulating how you feel about your toys. Minus the fact that this one is a million times funnier and a much lighter tone.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. So that is all the time we've got for this week. But if you like what you see, follow along at Popco, I'm renaming the show, popcornprosecco.com, no end. Also, catch us on Twitter at Popcorn Prosecco. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, again, Popcorn Prosecco. And now, Angie, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter and Tumblr at AJHAN. It's Angie Han, and I write for /Film, so you can find my writing there too.
How about you, Kristy?
You can find me on Twitter at Kristy Puchko, KristyPuchko, and I write often for Cinema Blend and Pop Crush, so if you're on either of those sites, look for me.
And you can catch me on Twitter. My handle is Nemiroff, and I'm all over the place. Shocky.com, movies.com, comingsoon.net, collider.com, screenrant.com. We got this covered. I think that covers it. The show is in its early stages, so if you've got questions, suggestions, compliments, anything at all, put them in the comments section of this post. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Everything is awesome.